What's up, everyone, and welcome back. I think this is the eighth or ninth episode from the Lions Cove podcast. I'm sorry, I am so horrible with that. But today we have a very special guest, my man, Yanni Volas. Yanni, welcome to the podcast, my man.
Thank you for having me, Marcelo.
Yeah, so this has been a long time coming. I've known Yanni for a while now, one of my good friends, and he's also a great football player, as we'll see throughout this podcast. He has a lot to talk about with his experience at John Carroll University. And, thank you again for joining on today.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited. Long time coming.
Yeah, so, we've had a lot of holidays. We've had Halloween. Today's election day. Just what a time to be alive. Hopefully you all went out there and voted today. It's very important. And hopefully you all had a great Halloween. But what do you say? Let's get into this podcast.
Let's do this.
All right, so to give my man Yanni a proper intro. So, Yanni is a kicker at John Carroll University. Formerly played at Hoover High School. Yanni attended a bunch of events in high school. He went to the Top Kicker in America event, Chris Saylor kicking event. He went to, I think, 2 of those. Then he went to the kicking coach and then Stark County kicking competition. So he went to a bunch of those camps, which is awesome. And then to look at some of his college stats, he's a part of the National Honor Society, Honor Roll, Summa Scholar, 4-time academic letterman, team captain, first and second team All-Federal League, 3-time varsity letterman, honorable mention All-Star County, and just a bunch of awards right there. And then in 2022, he made a 29-yard field goal, went 8 for 8 on PATs, pretty impressive right there. And then he also made a 39-yard field goal and went 6 for 6 versus Marietta. And then in 2023, he made a 24-yard field goal as well as putting three punts inside the 20, one going 61 yards. Pretty impressive right there. And then he made 2 field goals and all 3 extra points against Heidelberg in 2023 of last year. And then some other awards, 2022 All-OAC second team, CSC Academic All-District Team, 2022 Academic All-OAC, and then first team All-OAC in 2023. So my man Yanni, he's involved in a lot of good things, and he's a great person, great athlete, as you can see here. So, first question is, what initially got you into football, and when did you realize this was something that you wanted to pursue at a higher level?
Yeah, so growing up, right, I always played soccer. And then, in 5th grade, a couple buddies asked me, okay, yeah, you come out for the team, you'll definitely, play or whatever. Because I was always kind of, bigger growing up.
Yeah.
So I went out for the team and actually broke my elbow, during,
No way.
Summer camp, yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll come back one more year. I had unfinished business. I want to get, a full year. And, I actually found myself playing, D-line, offensive line, because I guess I was a little bit bigger. A little bit of linebacker. And so I just, I kind of fell in love with football, at that 5th, 6th, 7th grade age. And then I just kept playing. I would play soccer in the winter and spring and then football in the fall because you can't play both in the fall or whatever. And then when it came time for high school, I kind of had to make a decision. So I started kicking in 8th grade because that's when they started implementing field goals and things like that.
Yeah.
So, I was pretty decent at that or whatever. And then I basically sat both the coaches down, going into my freshman year. I was like, hey, is there a possibility that I could kick for the football team and play soccer?
Yeah.
And actually, the football coach was all for that, but our soccer coach was not really down for that.
Really?
Yeah, I was I was honestly shocked by that. So I was like, okay. So I went through basically both, fall or what do you call it, summer camps for football and soccer my freshman year. It was crazy. I would go to football from 8 to 10 and ride my bike down the street to go to soccer practice from 11 to 1.
Wow.
It was nuts. So I went throughout the summer or whatever, and I got put on one of the lower JV games or lower JV teams for soccer. So I was like, okay, whatever, if that's gonna happen. I had a starting spot as a lineman and starting kicker and punter on the freshman team. So I was and I like those guys a little bit better. A lot of my closer friends played soccer, but I just like the team feel more in football.
Yeah.
So, and that's what really drew me to football in the first place. And then I just played freshman football and stuck with it and kicked, played some other positions, and here we are now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So throughout your time, did you play any other sports growing up or in high school, like aside from football and soccer?
Yeah, no, just football and soccer.
Wow.
I played soccer up until I think it was my sophomore year. I just played the club, and then I just realized that I'm not going to go anywhere with this. So it's like okay, and like I can play soccer whenever.
Yeah.
But football. I think the main reason why I decided to play football was you're not going to be able to strap on your pads, go out there on like a Friday, Saturday or whatever, and play organized football. Whereas like I can pick up soccer anytime.
Right.
So yeah.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
So can you share a moment from your high school football days at Hoover that you'll never forget?
Hmm. I think some of like my more favorite moments were like the practices and the 2 days. Like those were just awesome, and just honestly like every Friday night going out underneath the lights. I mean, there's nothing like it. Like college football is great and all, but there's nothing better than Friday night lights. But I think one game that sticks out to me was my sophomore year. I was the starting punter on that team. We had won like our federal league. It's like our league championship or whatever.
Wow.
And we beat it on Jackson's Field, which is like our rival. And I know Mayfield has played Jackson in the
Yeah.
past. So that's always a big game for us. And we went out there and did it on their field. So that was pretty awesome.
Wow. So throughout your time, did you like I guess go up against any like D1 talent, any like big time like players?
No one like crazy. I mean, there was a couple guys that went to like some D1s, like small schools.
Yeah.
But I can't think of like one person. I mean, over in McKinley, this is actually me and Jake Phillips were talking about this the other day. This kid's name's Harold Fannin. He's like leading the country as like the #1 tight end like in college football right now.
Yeah.
He plays for Bowling Green.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I played against him. I think he was a year younger than me. Maybe we were in the same grade. So there was him. McKinley's always had some dudes. Perry always had some dudes. And then there's athletes sprinkled out throughout. But
nice. So then Jackson was like your main rival, right?
yes, yeah.
So just like talk about like that atmosphere of playing against your rival Friday night underneath like the lights.
I mean, yeah, it was just like somehow, some way, it always ends up being personal. Like someone will go at someone on social media or something like that. Like just leading up to the game, and like it was always like Hoover was like the more hard nosed team, whereas like Jackson was kind of like the try to be like flashy or whatever, try to do their own thing, and I just think that always motivated us to go in there and take care of business. And so as a starter on varsity or whatever, like playing varsity football my sophomore, junior, senior year, we beat them 2 out of the 3 times. So
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all of like my best friends, I mean, there's probably like 10 or 12 of them. Like they all played football. I was the only one that didn't play.
Yeah.
And just like being in the stands, just like watching them play.
Yeah.
Like it was just a great, just like whole experience.
Yeah.
Just like
it's incredible.
Just like being like just seeing like your friends like play the sport that like they love, and especially because like we've my grade and the class above were very good. So just like those experiences I'll just never forget, and like I'll like they'll always like make fun of me. There was actually a picture in the yearbook of me and like 3 of like my friends, and someone like captioned it like I think my friend Shane was like, yeah, I love playing football with like my brothers, and I was in the middle. So like
that's so awesome.
So I was like the honorary like football player.
Yeah, there you go. I love that.
So
you guys had some good teams too, and that's definitely something to like that. It had to be fun to be a part of that too.
Yeah, and I mean especially winning like a conference championship.
Oh yeah, there's nothing better.
Just I'm sure everyone just ran on like the field and just celebrated.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it was great.
Wow. So you've attended several high-profile kicking camps that I mentioned earlier, including like the Chris Saylor kicking camp and the kicking coach, which a lot of people have heard about the kicking coach, so it's pretty cool. So how have those experiences shaped you as a kicker, and what are some key takeaways that have helped elevate your game?
So I'll kind of like clear up like how like the kicking world works, I guess, in that regard.
Yeah.
So the biggest camp there is, right, it's called Cole's Kicking. I don't know. I mean, people have seen like different clips and things like that on like Instagram, YouTube, or whatever. They kind of like run it. Like they're like the #1 business in that. And then there's Chris Saylor, right? He's kind of so. But the one I would go to, like you said, like the kicking coach, he's out of Chicago. He's more like smaller, like kind of just like those like places in the Midwest. He's more about like developing you like skill set wise. Like he's very cut and dry. Like so his story is he immigrated from Serbia like his like I think sophomore year, and he started punting over at Warren Holland, I think is where he went to high school. And like I think he walked on like South Dakota, played there, and they actually played in the NFL for a couple of years.
Wow.
So like I mean, and he just focuses on like, okay, like yes, I'm gonna like rank you or whatever, but I'm also gonna really focus on developing your skills if you want to learn. With the Coles and the Chris Saylor, that is what helps you really get recruited. So going to those camps, going and getting ranked, getting like your stars or whatever, that's like how you make like a name for yourself, I guess, and doing well on Friday nights, obviously. But like those opportunities, like on Friday nights, are not guaranteed. Like we'll talk about it later or whatever, like with my opportunities or whatever. But being able to be recruited, you need to be ranked on their websites. And it was kind of like a pay-to-play type of thing where, like,
Really?
the more camps you would go to, like, the better off you were going to get ranked. So I had only gone to one Coles camp and one Chris Saylor camp because I just wanted to see where I stacked up, like to other people. And it was really interesting, like, to go to those different camps. But no, the kicking coach, I have a lot of thanks for him. He developed me into the kicker that I am. And yeah. So, yeah.
Wow. So did you have to like travel like for all of these, or were they pretty like close?
Yeah.
Near
So
Cleveland?
I had never done like a big like ranking camp until I was going into my senior year. Cause I was like, okay, like I want to get recruited. I want to see how I am compared to everyone else. So what I did was, it was right before COVID, it was a week before. So my aunt lives down in Georgia.
Yeah.
And we had saw, like, okay, like there's a Chris Saylor camp down in Georgia. So let's go stay with my aunt, go to this camp, see what's what. I actually I did really well. I was like one of the top punters, pretty solid with my kicking. Actually, I would have done better with kicking if I didn't. There was like a competition at the end. I had gone out like a little early, but I was definitely stacking up well with everyone else. So that was like the first moment where I was like, okay, like I can do this. Like this is definitely within my capability. And then COVID hit, and that kind of messed up the whole recruiting thing. And then I did a Coles camp. There was one over in Avon. It was, I think, in June of 2020. Did pretty solid at that. And then like there was that top kicker camp, which I did. I think it was like July of 2020 going into my senior year. So that was like the big one where I win. Like that was like, I put a lot of effort into that one. So
wow.
Yeah.
So I'm sure just like, looking back on all of those,
Mm-hmm.
Camps and all of that, like
Yeah.
I'm sure those were just great experiences. I'm sure
Yeah.
you met a lot of people just from everywhere.
Tons of people. Yeah, I mean, like you look up people now, like playing college football. It's like, oh my god, like I know that guy. Like, we were like, we met at that camp. Or like, I have a couple close buddies who play at some pretty big schools. So like,
wow,
that's cool. Yeah, it is cool.
Crazy.
It is crazy. It's definitely crazy.
So overall, what was the recruitment process like for you, and why did you choose John Carroll?
Sure. Yeah. So kind of like what we were saying, like you go get ranked or whatever, you get on these people's radars. So one other big thing about the kicking recruiting world is like you kind of need to like pick your schools that you feel like you can fit into.
Yeah.
And then you go to like their camps. Well, COVID hit and all those camps got canceled. So I wanted to go like play like Ivy League football.
Wow.
That was like my like big goal, like go to like a Harvard, like a UPenn or something, or go to like the Patriot League. So like Bucknell, Colgate, Fordham, those schools. And those schools were actually recruiting me a little bit. But then COVID hit, I never got to go to their camps, and ties kind of fell off. Because, like, I mean, if they don't see you kick, it's like they can't recruit you. You know?
Yeah.
So, and then John Carroll came around. One of the coaches had reached out. I kind of like I was like, okay, whatever, like that's an option. And then I reached back out because I'm like, okay, like this is a school that I can be good academically and athletically, and potentially play a little bit. So I just continued, reaching out to them, and they kept reaching out to me, and went on a visit, I think, like September of 2020, so my senior year. I liked it. They offered me or whatever, and then I think I ended up committing like December, like January.
Wow.
Of that year. So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, did you take any like online visits or like through like Zoom or through like the laptop?
With John Carroll?
Just like in like general, because I know like during like my time, like people would send me like virtual like tours, and like of like the facilities.
Right.
Like I know Mango, who's on the podcast, he mentioned like I'm not sure if he went on one, but like people kind of just had different like stories about it.
100%. Yeah, I mean there was a couple different virtual visits. Like the places I was getting recruited by was like Case, Ohio Northern, Walsh University, which is close to home. Yeah, and they all had like virtual visits, so yeah, they'd like do or whatever. But like John Carroll like really pushed for us like to get on campus, like check it out, and that's what I think also probably contributed to me coming here too. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So like the recruiting style for like defense, offense, but like is it essentially like the same thing as special teams, or is special teams like a little bit different with recruiting?
Yeah.
Like, how does that really work?
So I'd say it's similar in the fact that like, I mean, like you gotta like get these kids on a visit, you gotta see like their personality, see what they're like. But then as far as like a skill set goes, like yeah, I mean, I know like at like D2 and like D1 schools, they can like work you out and like you kick in front of them or whatever. But like at a Division 3 school, I mean, like you sending them film, like I made sure I had like videos of me kicking like at camps and things like that, so that definitely helped out a little bit. But yeah, no, I think it's similar for the most part. But the one thing that is like a discrepancy, and I've talked about this like with other people, is like the star rating thing. Being like a 5-star kicker is not being like a 5-star running back, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of subjective. Like I said, like the more camps you go to, the better off like your ranking is going to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a discrepancy there.
Yeah, because I did my like research, and you were ranked, I think, like pretty like high with stars.
Yeah, I think so. I went to one Sailor and one Coles camp, and they both gave me 4.5 stars.
That's right.
So, I mean, like we can sit here and say like what that all means and like what this, that, and the other, but I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it just basically means that like, okay, this guy is not a schmuck, but he's not exactly the best to go play like a Division 1.
Wow.
Like at a Division 1 school.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, because when I like looked up like your name and like all like your stats came out, like it was crazy, like seeing like the young Yanni.
Oh yeah.
With like all like your stats.
Yeah,
on
they got all the things in there. They write like little like excerpts, like hey, Yanni can do good at this, this, and this. Needs to work on this, this, and this. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's funny.
No, that's like so cool. And plus, like when you're older, you can show like your kids, like
right. Yeah.
Like like look at this, and like pull up like all.
Like, this is actually how sweet I was. Yeah. No. Dude, that's funny.
That's awesome. So obviously you're in your senior year right now at John Carroll. So throughout your time, was there a specific moment at John Carroll that made you truly feel like you belonged at the college level?
Like athletically?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, so my freshman year, there was a senior and a senior who were on punt and field goal. And I kicked JV, and I had like a really good JV year. Like it was like, I mean, call it what you want, like it's JV or whatever, but like I definitely kicked the best that I possibly could have to make a case, like to get on the field. And if either of those seniors weren't there, I can say with confidence, like I'm not trying to be like cocky or anything, but I definitely would have played that year. And then, yeah, I would say just like that freshman season, I was like, okay, like I can definitely hang with these guys. And then also too, like going to like, so like in the off season, I would go to like the kicking coaches camps, and he'd ask me to come help out, coach the younger kickers or whatever.
Wow.
And then like basically like, the way it goes is like you kick in the morning, punt in the afternoon, but like during like lunchtime, the staff does like a demo, and like my kicking friends who would come back and help the camps also, who were at Division 1 schools, we'd all kick together, and like I mean there wasn't really much of a like discrepancy, if that makes sense. Like maybe like a little bit, but like not like a ton. So I think a combination of that and then like my freshman year definitely kind of solidified. It's like, okay, like I'm good enough to do this. I just need to perform now.
Yeah. So like, did you start playing more like your sophomore year? Like, entering into like the starting lineup and stuff?
Yeah. So the way that kind of went, so Grant Gagne, who love him, great teammate, even better person, hell of a kicker and punter. So he kicked field goals and kicked off my freshman year. Then he ended up punting my sophomore year. But the way that went was I actually started a punter off in that first game. He was the field goal kicker. We both had like average games. And our coach said, okay, like, Yanni, you're doing well in practice with field goals. We're going to put you as the kicker now. And we're going to move Grant to punts because he's doing well practicing punts. So we're basically going to switch you guys around. And we had a bye week in between that week 1 and week 2 game. So we just kind of, made that switch, stuck it out, and I kicked that the rest of that year as the place kicker. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And then plus, you've had some great games. I mean, obviously, like 6 PATs, far field goals. I mean, like 39 yards. Like, I mean, as like an average human, I don't think I can kick past 15 yards.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe not even 5. I don't know. We honestly probably have to go test that out.
Yeah, no,
but
we definitely should.
But I mean, that's still very, very impressive, and especially getting time on the field as a sophomore.
Yeah.
Like that's very good.
And like funny, like you mentioned that. I remember like saying to myself, like, okay, like going in like my sophomore year, like this is the year like you need to get on the field, because if you don't, then like you kind of fall into the weeds a little bit. That's kind of like how it works, at least at like Division III level. And I just kind of like made that decision for myself. I was like, okay, like you need to get on the field, like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And thank God it worked out.
Yeah, so like I guess when you were kind of like competing for your spot, did you have to go against like a lot of kids? Because I know like at the D3 level, there are a lot of kids fighting for like one spot.
Yeah. So kicking is interesting, right? Like at a Division I school, like they might have like 6, 7 kickers on the roster, but at like a D3 school, normally you have like 1 or 2 like at each. But like I remember like my freshman year, there was 6 of us. So yeah, I mean like there's only one guy that gets to play for each. So yeah, I definitely had to compete. And like I thought like okay, like going to a D3 school, like I thought I'd be able to play if not my freshman year, definitely my sophomore year. Just based on like a talent perspective, but like all the guys who I was kicking with, I was like, okay, all these guys are like capable. Like I just didn't expect that, because I think everyone kind of like poo-poos D3 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, no, definitely not the case. There's definitely good talent at this level. So,
yeah, for sure. So and then obviously coming off that great sophomore year, you had a great junior season.
Mm-hmm.
So as a kicker, how do you mentally prepare for high pressure situations? Because obviously there's so many times where you're put on the line to, hit the game-winning field goal. You're iced. Coaches are calling timeouts from, like, the sideline.
Yeah.
So how do you stay calm at, like, nailing long field goals or handling clutch moments in games?
Yeah. So it's a good question. I love this stuff. I love talking about this stuff because it's definitely something I'm really passionate about. So I'll kind of answer this, like, twofold. Like, everything leading up to the kick and everything – or, like, I'll – talk about like my routine on the field, like when I'm in practice, and then like when I'm off the field. So off the field, it's a lot of like mindfulness training, right? So you kind of like sit, you meditate, but it's not meditating so much to like relax. Sometimes you do some relaxation techniques, but it's more about like mindfulness. So being in the present moment, not judging any moment that like is being presented to you. You just kind of, it is what it is, and you just cope with that like in that moment. So I'll do that like once a day, you know what I mean, twice a day, just to kind of sit there 5 minutes, just do some mindfulness breathing techniques. And then like as far as like on the field goes, like before practices, I'll sit, I'll visualize how I want my practice to go, and then I'll go out, do the practice, and like I guess like before a kick, I'll just just deep breath in, deep breath out, just clear the mind of everything, just be very present. That's honestly the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Not judging, what happened before, what happens after, just being very in the moment with each opportunity.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, kind of going back to the last podcast, I had a great episode with Coach Nick.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen that yet, please go watch it. Please go listen to it. It was very good. But, I mean, we just talked about, like, that mindfulness, like, even, like, while you're in the game, before the game, after the game. I mean, it is so important, and I feel like a lot of people don't really like realize that until like a coach presents you with it, or you kind of do your own research, or it kind of comes up in like recent trends, and that's like awesome because obviously kicking is all mental, pretty much, like because
it really is.
I mean there are so many professional athletes that miss game-winning kicks, and they go back to the locker room and their phone's blowing up with death threats and everything like that. I mean, it's crazy. But, like, I mean, even being at, like, the D3 level, I'm sure it is a ton of pressure just, to make those kicks, and especially fighting for, like, a spot almost. Because if you miss those kicks, there's always a chance that, okay.
Spot.
Yeah,
for sure.
Wow.
It's something like that.
So what's, like, your pregame, routine? I think I've asked every interviewee this question. This is, like, my favorite question ever.
Yeah.
Like, what what do you do like before the game?
Sure.
What kind of like songs do you listen to get you going?
Yeah, so I guess like a typical game day for us is like you wake up, you go to chapel or whatever, you do like a little mass, and then you go eat as a team, and then you kind of hang out. For me, I'll get to the stadium like 2 hours before like game time, maybe 2.5 hours before, get my body right, do some stretching. I guess like music wise, I don't know. I like to mix it up. It's whatever I'm feeling that day. I don't like to do any one thing. I know that there is one typical genre that I don't like to listen to. Is things that like pump up music or anything. That are like they're like too like, what do you call it? Like something's gonna like make me like amped. You know what I mean? I kind of just like keep it chill. Like sometimes I'll do like classical music or like just like chill rap or something like that. Something really really smooth.
Yeah.
And that kind of because like I'm kind of like a go kind of person. Like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of a rah rah guy without like being in a rah rah guy position.
Yeah.
So it's definitely hard to like just relax,
Yeah.
like in those moments. And then I'll do my stretches or whatever, kind of get the body right, get out there, and then I'll be really methodical about like my reps too, because like the big thing about like kicking like between like practice and the game is like in practice like you're hitting like 20, 30 balls, and then like during a game like you're hitting like 60, 70, 80 balls because you gotta always stay warmed up, you gotta always stay ready.
Yeah.
You hit the ones in game, you gotta hit kicks in pregame. You got to hit kicks in with like the team in pregame. You need to hit kicks at halftime. There's a lot. You got to do a lot. You got to stay ready. So yeah.
Always. Do you throw in like a little bit of Kanye West?
Yeah, I thought like some Kanye. Some 808s and Heartbreaks. That usually gets me in the right mood.
Yeah, Yanni's a big Kanye fan.
I do like Kanye.
When we were doing, when we were studying for a test, man, he was bumping that Kanye, and I haven't heard those songs in years.
Mm-hmm.
I actually went back later and I saved those songs.
The old ones, I mean, the old Kanye is obviously better. Like we can talk about that all day. But yeah, no.
Awesome. So, how do you stay focused and confident, especially after a miss kick? Because it's kind of like the same thing as airballing like a few threes.
Mm-hmm.
You're just kind of down.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So kind of like going back to like being in the present moment or whatever. Like the biggest thing that I tell myself is like, okay, that kick does not impact this next kick. They're not related. They're not interconnected by any shape of the imagination. Every kick is different. Every kick deserves the same amount of attention. And then also too, like not rushing it like in my head. Cause like I'll visualize, okay, like if I know like there's a third down, like I'll just visualize, okay, like I'm gonna go out there, take my steps, take a couple deep breaths, go in there and kick it. Whereas like sometimes like I've rushed the whole routine like in my head, okay, it's like, hey, let's go. Let's just kick this. Let's just get it in there, and then we'll go. And that's how you miss. You know what I mean? And I have missed because of it. So no, after like you miss a kick, you got to remind yourself like everyone misses. No one's perfect. Just focus on the next one. That's it.
Yeah.
So
and plus too, I mean, I'm sure you have just great teammates that are there for you.
That's the other thing too, Marcelo. Is like I've noticed like especially at this level. I don't know how it is at other levels, but a lot of teams don't like their kickers. I don't know if it's like a personality thing, but I've just noticed the way like people like in pregame from like other teams and how they like treat like their kickers. It's kind of like they're kind of like second. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're kind of just like crap on them. But yeah, I mean the fact that I've great teammates definitely helps out with that. So
yeah, because I mean even after like missed kicks in like the NFL,
mm-hmm.
I mean they point right to the sideline and everyone's just kind of like their heads down. Yeah, I get it. Like you lost, but I mean like that's like missing like a game-winning shot, missing like
exactly.
a putt
mm-hmm.
in the Masters. It's like like you're just down. It's like you want people around you to like lift you up and
100%.
be there for you, and that's what good teammates are for. Because at the same time, it's like okay, well you're not the one out there making the kick,
right?
Yeah.
So
that's like those are always things that just kind of like shock me. It's like if you want to be considered like a leader, like you have to be a team player in all aspects,
mm-hmm.
whether your team is winning or losing.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So speaking of leaders, you've been recognized as a great leader.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you describe your leadership style both on and off the field? Obviously, great football player. And then obviously you lead Buller Community Day. You're one of like the higher ups for that. For those that don't know, John Carroll does a day of like service. It's like 3 to 4 hours. You pick a spot and you kind of give back to the community. So Yanni is very involved with that. So
So I'd say on the field, off the field, I would describe my leadership style as like very personable. Like I'm going to come up, I'm going to have a conversation with you. I'm going to get to know you more than surface level. Because everyone deserves to be heard, be seen. So I think that's like one of the number one way I like to lead, and also too just like by example, like coming into like college football, like in high school, right? I kicked, but yes, I also played a couple other positions. I was doing the whole practice. I was running around, whatever, showing like my effort. Whereas like in college, it's like okay, like I need to show my effort in other ways. You know what I mean? Like doing extra with like kicking, going hard in the weight room. going hard like in spring ball, just things like that, have, I think, helped with like my leadership style, just showing people that I am a hard worker, and people will follow. You know what I mean? It's just like that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. So how do you continue to push yourself to improve, even after all of these accomplishments that I listed throughout the beginning of the episode?
Yeah. I think like maturing as an athlete too, like your goals kind of change as you get older. And this year especially, it was more about, I don't really care about the accolades anymore. Like, I mean, yeah, like you care about them, but like it's something you worry about like after the season. But I mean, this year especially, I was like, okay, like I have nothing left to prove to myself. I just want to help my team win games. So I think that's the best way that I've help myself stay motivated, is by being able to go out there, help my team win the best way possible on every single opportunity that I'm given. So
yeah. I mean, especially starting off like your season with like an injury. You obviously worked your way back. You made your first extra point.
Yeah, the season last week.
So huge congrats to that.
Thank you.
And it's hard to come back from injury. I mean, me and you kind of talked about this off camera, but when you come back from an injury, like your mind's kind of racing. You're kind of going through a lot. It's a big mental game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it totally is. And like the nature of the injury too is like, so like I had like it's called a avulsion of like my quad basically. So like the very most top of my quad is like off the bone.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like it's very tedious. I guess like a lot of kickers get it. So now it's like it is getting better. I'd say I'm like 90%. But yeah, just like you said, breaking that mental barrier to be able to swing 100%. Like it's taking more time than I thought. But I mean, we're getting there.
Yeah, so. And I mean, plus, like to make a comeback like that.
Sure.
I mean, obviously it takes like a lot of patience, especially going through school too.
Oh, totally.
If you're just nonstop. And it's like, so when you were walking, did it kind of hurt, like when you would walk, or was it more so when you would kick?
Yeah. So like in the very beginning, like when it happened, like it definitely hurt like to walk a little bit the first couple of days, but then it kind of like subsided or whatever. But then it would only hurt like during certain like exercises. But yeah, the number one way like it hurts is like whilst kicking, which is like, I mean, that's the only thing I can be able to do. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm playing middle linebacker where I'm running around. No, I'm kicking a football, and if I can't do it 100%, it's like you can't go out there. You know what I mean? So
right. So overall, what key lessons have you learned throughout your journey that have shaped you both as an athlete and as a person?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that unrelenting hard work can get you on the field, like no matter what. And like in whatever capacity that is, like playing special teams, being a starter, being a backup, you know what I mean? Like it can get you on the field. And then also too, being selfless. I think just the game of football in general has taught me that, being able to sacrifice yourself for someone else to be successful is the number one reason why I was kind of drawn to the sport to begin with. And then also too, just, being as humble as possible and just taking every moment, not taking every moment for granted, I think is also a big lesson I've learned. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Those are great lessons right there.
Yeah.
So now we'll get into the quote of the episode. I don't know if I even mentioned this quote to you, but so every podcast we do a quote of the episode. So it's where I'll tell you a quote from a famous athlete, famous coach, famous player. You'll talk about what it means to you in your life, and then you'll tell me and the audience a quote that you live by every single day.
Sure.
So obviously you're a big Steelers fan.
Yes, I am.
So I put a quote from Mike Tomlin.
Oh, perfect.
So the quote is, "More grounded, more humble, more selfless makes us more opportunistic."
I like that. So I guess what that means to me is the more like the way you fall, like the way you hold yourself and the way you can stay consistent in holding yourself in the best possible standard will create opportunities, and it'll create moments that you can go in and perform for. So I like that quote a lot.
Yeah, and it's like, especially like kind of talking about that present moment feel. The more you're in the present, the more, I guess, how humble you are, the more aware of the things around you, the more appreciative you are, and the more opportunities that can come from that.
Mhm.
So
For
yeah,
sure.
yeah. When I first read that quote, I was like, yeah, this is a quote that 100% describes Yanni.
Yeah, I like that.
So
Yeah, that's good.
so now, what's one quote that you live by every single day?
Yeah. I don't really have a quote that I live by. I'll give you two tidbits. So there's a mentor of mine that kind of has instilled in me that like, okay, like if you're in a big moment, right? There's no moment that's too big. There's no moment that's too small. It's just a moment. It is what it is. And then also too, kind of like back to like to your opportunity quote. Like there is a quote. I don't know like who it's by, but it's like I'm more thankful for the opportunities than like being successful. I just want that opportunity. It's kind of like along those lines. But yeah, no.
Yeah, no, it's true because a lot of people don't get a whole lot of opportunities in life
To be able to perform. Yeah, 100%.
And also like a lot of chances.
Yeah.
Like even in like school, like there's not really a lot of opportunities to do well on a test,
100%.
to do well on an exam.
Right.
That's why studying, putting in the hard work, and obviously it's shown because you're a great student as well.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So that'll do it for this podcast episode. Shout out to my man Yanni.
Appreciate you, Marcelo.
Pleasure to have Yanni on the podcast. It's been a long time coming.
Hell yeah.
But be sure to subscribe. Be sure to follow, and this will be posted on the FTLC podcast. Sorry, I think over the past 2 weeks I've posted episodes on Wednesdays instead of Tuesdays. But hey, listen, podcasts are still coming out every single week, and I promised myself that I'd hold myself accountable no matter when they're posted. It's definitely been a little bit harder with school, but I found a great time balancing it out, and people like Yanni that have joined on this podcast have been very helpful with it. So be sure to follow the Instagram. Be sure to share with a bunch of family and friends, and very thankful for Yanni. He's a great friend, great leader, and great student, football player. He's just a great guy in general, and I'm very blessed to know him.
Thank you,
so that'll do it for this episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.